President Trump has decided that he's now going to put a 104% tariff on all goods coming from China. And this is a huge number. This is one of the biggest numbers that that the United States has ever seen in terms of tariffs placed on a country. It's kind of mind-boggling that he would actually go this far to put tariffs this large because of the effect this is going to have on the economy. And keep in mind that this is simply like a mistake. He really shouldn't do this. This is going to hurt the economy to the nth degree, because basically everything is made in China. You turn over just about everything in your home and you're going to see made in China on it. And if not, you're going to see it made somewhere near China. Now, keep in mind that, when I say everything's made in China, we're talking, last year, $438.9 billion worth of goods was imported from China to the United States. That is not a small number. That is a very, very significant number. And that makes up a huge part of the consumer economy, because those were consumer goods that were coming into the country. Generally speaking, that's what they were. Now, keep in mind that this is going to raise the cost on basically everything. And it's not just, like little things, like little commodities. It's going to raise the cost of cars, electronics, metals, lumber, and pharmaceuticals. So get ready. I mean, Americans already pay ridiculous prices for pharmaceuticals as it is. And now, basically, because of the tariffs, they're going to have to be doubling that. So if you're on medication that you really need, and it happens to be imported from China, or has components, ingredients that are imported from China, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, we know what Trump is trying to do here. To him, there's a long game to this. Basically, him and his advisors, they're saying that there's cheap stuff is not the American dream. Forget about cheap stuff that you've had all these decades coming out of China and everywhere else. Forget about that. That's not what we're about. That's not the American dream. So get ready to fight, because, basically just get used to not having that around anymore, because they're going to be gone, because that's part of the larger strategy of making everybody else bend to our will. Trump even explicitly said, I couldn't care less if they raise prices, because people are going to start buying American-made cars. So if your car is not made in America and you need parts coming in from other countries, you're kind of screwed. Or if you wanted, consumer choice, because that's what capitalism is about, apparently just free choice. You wanted to buy something that was from another country, in this case a car, you're SOL. You're in a lot of trouble now. That's going to cost too much. You're going to have to buy American, because that's the plan. Trump said we have short-term a little pain. And it's going to be more than a little pain. 104% tariffs on China is more than a little pain. That's going to be a lot of pain. That's going to do a hell of a lot of damage to the economy. That's not a little bit of pain. Even the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, even he said access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. Well, technically it's not. That's not what the American dream is. And usually the American dream is something rather nebulous that's not very well defined. It can be whatever it is that you want it to be. Usually that's, having a house, a car, a wife, a couple of kids, and a job that actually pays for all those things, which would basically mean the American dream is already dead anyway. So there's already that problem that it is there to begin with. So that's what they're banking on, that Americans will be tolerant of all the cheap stuff being gone in order to pursue the larger goal of making these countries bend to U.S. will. Now, Trump's approval rating is already in the dumps as it is. And once you start adding the amount of pain that the economy is going to start feeling as a result of these tariffs, it's going to tank even further. I I really don't care what anyone says about how Americans are going to come together against this threat that everyone else has posed by not wanting to buy American goods. And that's somehow a plot against America. And that this is something that Americans need to rally against. I don't think Americans are going to rally against this. I think once the cheap stuff is gone, people are going to be upset. It's going to be harder for people to get by. I mean, that cheap stuff isn't just a luxury that people have anymore. There's a lot of people that are in an economic situation where they need that cheap stuff in order to survive. I mean, the success of Dollarama, Dollar General, and every other dollar store isn't just there because people just feel like going to a dollar store. They go there because that's what it costs, because that's what they can afford. And you start taking that away, people are going to be in pain, and that's going to kill his approval rating. That's going to hurt a lot of people, and that's could potentially bring down his presidency. That could potentially be some kind of political revolt. I'm not saying some kind of armed struggle. That's not going to happen in the first world, but that's going to be something that's going to be a major political uprising against him. Could potentially do that if he doesn't smarten up and stop. Already these tariffs have completely roiled markets and sending them into shocks, and if anything capitalism does not like, it's unpredictability. They like things to run smoothly and to be able to predict what's going on, because that's the whole point of capitalism, creating all these formulas and all these predictive models in order to have predictability. But even China has said there's some ideas that they've been floating as a way of standing against one way that they could retaliate, and that is remove intellectual property protection for America inside of China. In other words, they could just turn around and say, okay, to Chinese companies, you know what? If it's American intellectual property, have at it. Just go. Do it. You can go ahead, just ignore copyright, ignore intellectual property laws, everything. Just have at it, completely plagiarize, copy everything America does, and do it for cheaper, and then flood the market with it. And then what is America going to do? Is it going to go to the World Trade Organization and complain that China's not following the intellectual property rules, while it itself is not following the trade rules? Like the pot calling the kettle black? Think about it. China could massively destroy, a number of American innovative products by simply making them cheaper, like the same quality, but cheaper, and then flooding the market with them. And that would do a hell of a lot of damage to U.S. businesses. But that's just one idea that they're floating as a way of retaliating against 104% tariffs. As of this recording, they have not announced what it is that they're going to do next. They've only called this move a mistake on top of a mistake. What they're going to do yet, we have not seen, but that is definitely going to be coming. So to recap, what Trump is doing is really bad. He's going to screw his own people. He's going to screw regular Americans. This is going to make it very difficult for regular Americans to get by, especially the lowest of the low, who really need the cheapest of the cheap stuff that's now going to be more expensive. And this is going to lead to a political backlash because people are going to have those things. And what happens when you leave people with nothing left to lose? You leave them in a situation like that. None of that. You leave China open for retaliation. And that retaliation scenario that I just described is one hell of a bad one that could potentially take place. But China is nothing if not creative, and could come up with something that may be even better than that, or something that may be a little bit more tame, but something that proves the point. But we've yet to see that. But that's my entire take on this 104% tariff. And we're just going to have to sit back and ride the wave and see what happens.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.